Today, we will talk about the parable of the talents.
Matthew chapter 25 verse 29 says, "For everyone who has will be given more, and he will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him."
The parable of the talents offers some powerful insights into effective investment and personal growth.
A story told by Jesus to illustrate deep truths about what really matters in life.
Now, let us watch the video and see what is the parable of the talents is all about.
Once there was a wealthy man preparing to leave on a long journey. He gathered his servants together and gave careful instructions on what to do while he was away. "I will be leaving you shortly and may not return for quite some time," he explained to them. "I am putting you in charge of my wealth so that my estate will continue to prosper even while I am away." So the master divided his wealth among his servants based on each one's ability to manage it. The first servant was given 5 talents. Each talent was equal to thousands of dollars. This servant took the sum of money given to him, and he immediately went to work, using what he was given to make more money. He knew this would please the master. His efforts produced 5 more talents. The second servant was given 2 talents. Not as much as was given the first servant, but still a great deal of money. This servant took what was given to him and, like the first servant, dutifully invested it to make more money. He too knew this would please the master. His efforts produced 2 more talents. The third servant was given 1 talent, less than the other servants, but still a good amount of money. This servant failed to see the value in the opportunity that the master had given him, and fearing any risk to it, promptly went out and dug a hole and buried it in the ground. Many days, weeks, and months passed, and finally the master returned. Eager to find out the condition of his property and wealth, he called his servants together to hear what they had done with what he had given them to manage. Each servant approached the master to give their report. The first 2 servants proudly showed their master that they had doubled what he had given them. The master smiled. "Well done, my good and faithful servants. You have been faithful with a few things. I will now put you in charge of many things." He added, "Come and let us celebrate." Then the last servant, who had been trusted with 1 talent, approached the master and accused him, saying, "You are a hard man to please, so in fear of you, I buried the money you gave me into the ground. Here is the 1 talent that belongs to you." The master was furious. "You wicked and lazy servant," he said. "I gave you an amount of property I knew you would be able to manage, but you did nothing with it. At least you could have put it in the bank to earn a small amount of interest. Now, you will lose your talent to the servant who gained 5. With that, the master took the only talent the servant had and cast him out of his household forever.
We can relate the money in the parable to the talents that God has given us. The contrast in the parable is between those who make use of God's gifts and those who do not. In verse 15, the master divided the money among his servants according to their abilities. No one received more or less than he could handle. God gives us time, gifts, and other resources according to our abilities, and He expects us to invest them wisely until He returns. We are responsible to use well what God has given us. It is not about how much we have, but how well we use what we have.
Jesus is coming back. Therefore, we must use our time, talents, and treasures diligently in order to serve God completely in whatever we do. It means doing our daily work out of love for God. 2 of the men received the same reward, indicating that faithfulness in the use of different abilities is given to each one of us is what is really required, while the third man is condemned for his sloth and indifference.
The last man was only thinking of himself. He hoped to play it safe and protect himself from his hard master. Yet, he was judged for his self-centeredness. We must not make excuses to avoid doing what God calls us to do. We must obey Him willingly. Our time, abilities, and money aren't ours in the first place. When we ignore, squander, or abuse what we are given, we are rebellious and serve to be punished.
This parable describes the consequences of two attitudes to Christ's return. The person who diligently prepares for it by investing his or her time and talent to serve God will be rewarded. The person who has no heart for the work of the kingdom will be punished. God rewards faithfulness. Those who bear no fruit for God's kingdom cannot expect to be treated the same as those who are faithful. The parable of the talents teaches us at least four important things about the biblical meaning of success while dispelling the cultural myths. We are not all created with equal skills, abilities, and opportunities. The narrative says each man was given talents according to his own ability.
The master understood that the 1 talent servant was not capable of producing as much as the 5 talent servant. Initially, we may read that and say that doesn't seem fair. But intuitively, we know that diversity is woven into the tapestry of our world. We are all different in many ways, not to say we should not treat everyone humanely with respect and dignity. But, for example, we are not all created as athletically inclined, and as such we cannot all be in professional sports. Again, not a bad thing, just a reality.
Success only occurs when we take action. The man receiving 1 talent did not work, and as a result, he gained nothing in return. Out of fear, he kept his talent buried, and the passage says, and thus guaranteeing it would not be lost, or put another way, and he would not fall. It is our job to be faithful with all God has given us, which means we need to leverage our opportunities. We are to work using our talents God has given us to serve the common good and to further the kingdom. Biblical success is working diligently here and now, using all the talents God has given us to produce the return.
When we do work, our efforts are to be aimed toward God and not our own self-pleasure or agenda. It was not uncommon in those days for masters to entrust possessions to their servants in their absence. If we are followers of Christ, we are His servants. We chose to die to self and follow Him. The Bible teaches us that everything we have, whether acquired or given at birth, is God. Winning is relative to what others have. Your success is relative to what you have. We are not all winners, contrary to current cultural lies. Winning depends on who else is playing the game.
We will be held accountable. The unfaithful servant in the parable did not waste the master's money. He wasted an opportunity. As a result, he was judged wicked and lazy. I am sure we have all felt that wasted opportunity from time to time, as it relates to sharing the gospel. We are responsible for what we have been given. The introduction of sin has corrupted all areas of culture, but one thing is clear. We are told to make disciples of all nations.